when we're talking about animation, what story are you in? And, Cliff and I had this really nice conversation out in Utah about story, right? And what view do you have? Like, what view do you have? And that you can, with thoughtfulness, change your view. Like, you can't change everything about your material reality, but sometimes you can change how you reflect on it, right? And so they know this. And they literally, there's been a lot of discussion about this, about consensus reality and using digital media and social media to create consensus reality. And so I've written a number of years ago, way before the pandemic, about social impact media and the way in which they were going to not only use media for propaganda purposes, but actually track the impact and use that for impact markets as well. And then these markets were going to be really sophisticated because of all of the ways in which we interact with smart devices and the way in which these devices can also start to sense our emotions. Smart televisions, laptops, phones, you're consuming media and then it's watching how you watch it, right? And then it's feeding you the next thing based on what your reaction was to the last thing. And so they're building your reality. They're editing and curating your reality for you. And increasingly that's going to actually be through augmented and virtual reality. So the Skoll Foundation, I believe this is 2019, they have like 120 page paper called The State of Social Impact Entertainment. And it's about television, it's about documentary film, it's about mainstream film, it's about virtual reality. And they straight up say, like, how do stories change your brain? That we can change your brain with an effective story. And they're going to use it for impact markets, but they're also going to use it to teach the global brain how to be human and to build your twin from a social, emotional, behavioral standpoint. And that's the way in which we interact with media is going to be really central to that. And a lot of the impact will be tied to the Sustainable Development Goals. So they will be steering you. And I mean, Jason, I would be interested in sort of your take on it, because, there's a whole section on documentary film. And I've written about that, how investors in the film space, and I don't know if it's necessarily people who are providing money for films to be made or money for films to be distributed, but there was a woman who was a Harvard business professor who's now sort of a venture capitalist in the documentary film space. And she says, we're very, very strategic, that we are looking for films that will change legislation to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. And, a number of those documentary films were around creating markets for social impact finance, like around, say, early childhood education in that case.
Yeah. And that was my frustration with showing these films, because I wanted to educate people about different issues. And increasingly they just, finding a good film is actually very difficult, where you feel like, okay, this film is just trying to tell the truth about a situation. And more, I just felt like the films, when I first started Argus Fest in 2001, there was a little bit more purity in the documentary film world. It seemed like there were more films where it was just like someone like me who just had a passion and wanted to make a film about something. But it seemed like, in like the mid 2000s, there seemed to be like a flood of money that came in there was a lot more documentary films being produced, and they were steering you in a direction, and you can see the direction when you came to the end of the film where they proposed their solutions, and so, yeah, I saw a lot of this. And then Participant Media, which is funded, Participant Films, which is funded by Jeff Skoll's foundation, does a lot of mainstream movies too.
I mean, increasingly, it's not going to be just like you go to a movie on the weekend or you dial one up every now. It's going to be, going to be your training. This is going to be your education vehicle. This is going to be everything. Like, literally, they're going to erase our access to the direct, digitally mediated space, and then put us in these digital spaces that they can manage. But then also for the young people, to build them up that they will be creators. And so that they will build sort of new markets in capital and reframe the youth media as content creators, that they will all be doing content creation.
And even if someone watches like an entertainment film or a Marvel movie, they don't think that there's some sort of propaganda or narrative being pushed in there. And my friends would get mad at me. They're like, can't you just watch a movie without making some commentary? And I'm like, well, what they're trying to they're pushing here. They're actually pushing an idea here that is not one that I agree with, but there's like a meta narrative to the story,
Yeah.
But people are, it's especially powerful if people
Black
are watching
Panther
it.
was like that.
What's that?
Like Black Panther had a lot.
Yeah, Black Panther was one of them that I kind of railed on, because I had a lot of friends that were like super excited about it, and they're like, "This is, like really pushing Black power and all this." I was like, "It's about a monarchy, it's about extraction, and the sidekick is a CIA guy, literally a CIA guy." I'm just like, what? But they don't think about, okay, what's the narrative here?
And girls in STEM, right? Science, high tech.
Yeah, exactly. But it's
you can
framed,
control the tools. It'll be great.
It's framed as Black liberation, or some of them be women's empowerment or whatever. But ultimately, it's pushing you into these systems of money and power and digital. I mean, now like the volume of films and TV shows coming out that are promoting robotics and synthetic life and the metaverse and all of that, it's like it's exploding. There's tons of material that's coming out every year now. So
yeah.